Welcome to Doing It My Way by Beata Matras, a podcast about project and product management, communication, brand, and IT. All these topics will definitely improve and have a positive impact on your career. So join me today, subscribe, and expect a new episode every week. Thank you. So, hello everyone. Welcome to Doing It My Way by Beata Matras. Today, I'm delighted to speak with Ania McLaughlin, the Senior Leader and General Manager at StoneX Poland. She has previously served as the Global Head of Client Experience at Oanda and held various VP positions at BBH and UBS. She's recognized for her creative problem-solving, effectiveness, and leadership skills. And she's particularly inspiring to women in the financial industry. And today we're going to delve into her leadership journey, career growth, and the unique challenges associated with top leadership roles. So welcome, Ania. It's great to have you here. Thank you for accepting my invite.
It's a pleasure to be here. Always a pleasure talking to you. I hope that whoever's listening and watching us is going to find our discussion inspiring. Looking forward to what we're going to talk about, because you may ask some questions along the way that are going to inspire me. The intro is fabulous, so I already feel inspired to have a discussion. One of the things that I do want to talk about is how we do recognize other people and how we think about ourselves. So that's one of the top skills that leadership and talent, basically how you think about your role.
It's a great introduction. I think we both did a great introduction. But before moving to the specific topics, I would love you to share with us the journey that led you to your current position at StoneX as a senior leader and general manager.
So the journey is not straightforward, right? So one of my pieces of advice for anybody that's just starting their career is when you're just starting your journey, try a few things. You need to figure out what you're about. You need to figure out what it is that you would like to do. Because until we try certain things, you just never know what's gonna make you tick. So I have started my role as a teacher, actually. I have a degree in teaching English as a foreign language. I did my bachelor's in that, and I taught in school for a couple of years. That is a skill of influencing people. You can use that skill in training when you're a leader later on. Then you move a couple years. I was in the States. I moved to California. I spent about 6 years there. I worked in a finance department dealing with customers. I was promoted to a supervisor at that time. You get to figure out a different operating model, different business operating model, right? And you get to work with various cultures. And then when I moved back to the States, I continued my education. I did master's degree in management and business consulting. And I started working in a very small company that was doing credit control for companies in UK and in Ireland. And that's when I discovered that smaller companies are not my cup of tea, that I thrive in places that provide me with opportunities to learn from others. So my next step was a risk role. I was, as far as I remember, my title was Data Integrity Team Lead. So I was leading analysts that were performing credit controls. And I loved that job. I loved that culture of learning from one another. I had a deputy that I was training that we're still in touch. And that was many years ago. Then I moved to Brown Brothers into a risk manager role that gave me access to stakeholders, gave me access to senior stakeholders, managing directors, department heads. And I had to essentially go to them and convince them that what's happening in their department is not necessarily the way it should happen, and influence them and convince them that they should change something. It's a very delicate role. It taught me quite a bit. And that moved me into my next role as an assistant department head for transfer agency role. That was very challenging. And we're going to talk about this later, some of the challenges that I that I've encountered. But then again, that allowed another step. As you mentioned, I work for Rwanda as a global head of client experience, leading teams globally, Toronto, Japan, Manila, Krakow, and Singapore. So that gave me a lot of different perspectives working in lots of different cultures. And then an opportunity for a general manager at an office here locally in Krakow for Stonex came about. And so that's where I'm at currently. I started that position not that long ago. And so, as you see, with each step, you're growing and you're learning. And leader never stops learning, no matter how senior you are or where you are. There's always things to change. There's always things that you can improve.
That story itself is like, I think, inspiring and like supporting others in their growth, because it shows that it's not always straightforward. Yeah. It's not always like you're going this way and it's like very kind of, your goal, what is like going to happen there. It was like trying a lot of different things, a lot of different career roles. It's versatile.
So I'll tell you why this isn't necessarily by design. It wasn't that I said, hey, I really want to try my role in risk, and here I really want to lead the transfer agency. In fact, when I tried and I applied for the role of transfer agency assistant department head, I said, this isn't going to work. It was known as one of those places that was very stressful, lots of issues, with staff needing to perform a lot of different roles. Right? There was a lot of items where you needed to pull up your pants and basically sometimes do things that you really didn't necessarily enjoy. But it was a step in a career, and it was a step in terms of you took the opportunity, because that's one of the main things. As my current boss would say, you say yes to an opportunity and then you figure out along the way how to do it. So you look at your career in the sense of, what can I learn? What can I do? What can it give me? How can it improve me? But this is me, right? This is my journey. Not everybody wants to work that way. Some people are happy with the position where they're at. Some people are not very ambitious, or they have different priorities in their life. They have family that they want to look after. They are traveling, because the life that I have chosen comes with consequences. It's not always all pluses and all great stuff. And I get to do a lot of cool stuff. Don't get me wrong. But there has to be a balance somewhere. And what's most important is for you to stay authentic, for you to answer the question of, what is it that I want to do in my life? How I would like to have my career look like.
You're like, the conversation goes into the direction where I feel like, okay, I feel empowered right now. And I have that questions like appearing in my mind that actually, like, I start questioning and thinking of, am I like really going in a direction that I want to follow? Am I like still staying authentic and so on? So thank you for that. I will have a really turbulent night probably with all these thoughts coming around and appearing. Thank you,
That
Anna.
was not my intention at all, but that's how transformation happens. When the change is needed, you just kind of need to follow those steps. So
yeah, definitely. Like coming back to our like initial, let's say, scenario of this episode, because I prepared some questions for you. And let's focus maybe on the career growth support. Because as you said, you tried a lot of different roles and you're a leader, a general manager at Stonex currently. How, as a successful leader and role model, like especially I think for women, because we tend to go, or we tend to like go into the direction that we seem possible. So you are seen by me, for example, as a role model. And I think for many women that are in early stages of their careers, you also seem like a great role model. So how do you help others to grow in their careers?
So at different stages of my career, that support looked differently, right? As you are changing your roles, you have different capabilities, you have different cultures within the organization. But again, you want to stay true to yourself. You want to be authentic and you want to figure out what's going to help the person that you're trying to inspire or leading, right? I mean, one of the examples that I had from UBS when I had my deputy, one of the things that I was trying to do to support him is I would ask him to dial in into a call. It was a business call. And I told him this. There's going to be moments where somebody's going to ask me a question and I'm just going to pass it on to you. And I never told him when that's going to happen. And if you are struggling, I will pick it up. I will answer this. Don't worry. But I want you to start answering those questions because that's how you're going to learn. And so I live by an example of you're leading a team. If the team is successful, it is their glory. And I always highlight that because nothing happens in isolation. It's a teamwork. I truly believe it and I live it. And if there is a problem, then you take it upon yourself. My staff, my people that I've worked with, they have always known that I will have their back. That's how I create the opportunities for them. And there's an inspirational speaker and one of my favorites, I don't want to call them mentors, but somebody that inspires me, Simon Sinek. He mentioned that a leader goes first into uncharted territory. And it's because they're a leader. They don't know what to expect, but they need support as well. Everybody needs support. Everybody needs a sounding board, no matter where you are. If you feel like you're alone, you're going to have anxiety. You're going to have fear. You're going to feel insecure. But one of the things that makes a leader a good leader is recognizing the people, supporting them, and also leading a way. You do it by showing them, right? So that's just one example with the phone calls. Another thing is creating opportunities, connecting the dots, connecting them with the right stakeholders. I hear certain things on calls where, let's say, my direct reports don't hear, and I know their skill sets, right? So I invest a lot of time in getting to know my people. And I know what they're good at. I know where they lack. I'm a firm believer in giving feedback as we go. I'm the kind of leader that's called a straight shooter. So I basically tell them how it is. There's no ill intent, but I would rather give them candid feedback and give them pointers as to what they're doing well and what they need to work on, rather than avoid the topic or wait for end of the year to give them negative feedback or whatever. They should never be surprised about how they're doing, right? And so a lot of folks have mentioned that that's very, very helpful. They know where they stand, and that's again I mentioned creating opportunities. You need to keep in mind that not everybody is in the role where they should be. Sometimes we need to direct them in a different direction.
But I think it's sometimes like different, being a young professional to actually like take this feedback, not personally, but as a feedback to how you behave, what you can improve rather than immediately take it personally. For example, I struggle with getting the feedback. Really, I know this is something that I should work on. I'm acknowledging it, but for example, at first I need some time to digest it, and I learned that at first I'm running away and saying, "Oh, it
Yeah,
didn't happen," but then
but you know what? And here comes that personal connection, because folks that work for me or work with me, because that's how I like to look at it. They don't work necessarily for me, even though that's the formal structure. They work with me. We're creating a culture. We're creating a company. They know that my intention is not to hurt them. It's to help them. And I very often repeat that. You can say a lot of things. You can say almost anything. It's just how you say it. It's choosing the right words. And I'll give you another, maybe a pointer on a tip that inspired me when I was doing my master's degree. I read a book by Kenneth Blanchard, and I'm going to forget the title. I think it's Leading at a Higher Level. It's about a theory on situational leadership. Every person in their journey is at a different stage, and there are different stages to how you should help the person that you're trying to lead. So folks that are starting in their role, and also depends on the maturity of the person, but they need to be directed. You need to tell them what to do. You need to give them the tools. You need to show them step by step. Then once they start getting the comfort, once they start getting a little bit more skills, then you start coaching them because they have the answers. They just need a little push to get to where they need to be. Then you're supporting them. Then you know that they've had this role for quite a while. They're good, but sometimes they hesitate and they just need a little bit of support. And then you're literally delegating because they're experts and you're just letting them know what to do and they're doing it. In that spirit, you understand that a team is a collective of individuals, but each person is different. Throughout my career, I have also learned that not everybody likes the same thing. As in, we think that all people love positive feedback and they just want to be recognized. That's not true. I had somebody that basically told me, I feel uncomfortable when you're giving me positive feedback. Do not give it to me in a group. I don't even want to receive it in person because I think that I need to be doing a good job. That's my job. That's why you're paying me. And just give it to me only when I don't do a good job. Just tell me that I'm doing something wrong, right? I mean, it's a totally different approach. It's recognizing that one size does not fit all. Everybody's different. Everybody's got different experiences, backgrounds, and whatnot. So we need to recognize that and make sure that the people that work with us understand that we want the best for them, that we support them, at least from my perspective, because I do recognize that there are some environments where that's not the case, that we don't get supported.
Yeah, and I love the model where you said like first like tools, then coaching. The third thing was supporting and then delegating. Yeah, you need to move through all the stages, or you should move through all the stages, because if you will not give someone the tools and yet you start delegating, they feel lost and
you're setting them up for failure at that point. And that's actually a model that Kenneth Blanchard mentioned that every employee goes through. That's the right way of trying to develop your employees. And I don't think we stress delegation often enough. Delegation, as you asked earlier, how do I support people? I delegate them stuff. And I do it intentionally, not because I don't want to do it. I don't delegate the stuff that I just don't want to do it. I delegate the things that are going to teach them something. I delegate things that are going to help them grow. I trust in their ability to do this. I don't think I do everything well. I have experts for that very reason. So as a leader, you shouldn't stop learning because the environment is changing. And so I was listening to a LinkedIn Learning 22 Habits of Executive Leaders. And one of the things was saying you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want to learn from other people. You want to find their perspectives. But that means you have to be secure in yourself. That means you don't feel threatened by somebody else. That means you know you're good enough. And these people that are going to give you other ideas that are maybe better than yours, quite often enough they are, because they're experts in their field, are going to make you look good. They're going to make the team work. They're going to advance the company. So that is a very important part of developing your people. If they mess up, and I always tell this to my folks too, you mess up, I've got this. I'll cover this. I'll take responsibility for this. Mistakes happen. But if I don't let you make mistakes, you're never going to learn. If I always do everything for you, or I give you direction every single time how to do it, then why are you there? I can do it myself at that point.
Yeah, that's thought provoking. Yeah, but if we're talking about leadership, I think a next kind of topic that we're going to cover is more about mentorship. What is your experience with the importance of mentorship in your career, and how you mentor others as a leader?
Personally, I was thinking on my journey. I've had many mentors at different stages of my careers. They all happen to be my direct managers. I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent or whatever. They just happen to always be my direct managers, and they have all gave me different pieces that I needed at the time. As I mentioned, what we're talking here about is my journey. No two lives are the same. No two paths are the same. You, again, may thrive in a large corporation, or you may feel okay in a mom's and pop's shop, right? So my experience is my experience. Therefore, when I worked in the States, I had a aha moment from a customer service manager. She was basically caring, looking after. She was inspiring basically to us. And I have learned that management doesn't stop. It's not that you just put it all in a box, everything works, and you can just, that's it, we're done. No, you have to continue, right? Mentoring is exceptionally important because we all need support. We all need to talk to somebody and say, hey, am I doing this correctly? Do you think that I should look at this from a different perspective? Right? Again, that whole, you don't want to be the smartest person in the room. You want somebody else to help you through your journey, direct you. Now, the decision is yours ultimately. What you do with it, you just need somebody to talk this through it. I mentor people as well. I have mentored them throughout their careers, and what that benefit is like, folks can listen to this podcast and say, okay, this is great, this is inspirational, but again, this is about me. And in the mentorship, it's about them. It's about helping them with what they are trying to achieve. Sometimes it's confidence. Sometimes it's directing them to a book they should read. Sometimes it's directing them to people that they should talk to. Sometimes it's support and saying, listen, if you are struggling with X, this is how you deal with conflict. It's giving them that support. It's giving them the tools. It's giving them the confidence that they've got this. It can be very directed, very pointed set of tools. Sometimes it can just be a conversation. Sometimes they just need to listen. They need to feel heard. They also need to hear that they're not the only ones and not the first ones, that they have gone through this and that they have it and that they will learn along the way.
Because you said that mentoring is not about, you, it's about them. Yeah. It's about setting kind of environment for people to grow, to succeed. And you're just making them aware that they can do that. I think, I don't know if I like understand it correctly.
Yeah, you did. What I mean is, in a mentor-mentee relationship, a mentor learns as well. It's not that it's just a one-way street, right? You learn different ways of dealing with problems. You're figuring out what other people's views are. It is a two-way street. But what I meant by that is it's on a personal level. It's not a book. It's not a website that you go to. It's not a talk. It's not a conference, although those are very, very helpful. And I always recommend that to anybody that wants to continue in their career, to use all the tools that they have available. But it's more about the fact that you have somebody that you can talk to. You can tell them, how did you go through this? How did you deal with this? How do you deal with difficult stakeholders? It's more of that personal one-to-one connection. Networking is exceptionally important in any type of job. You need to figure out where you want to be, and you start looking at the people that have gone where you want to be. You always want to surround yourself with people that can do that can provide that guidance. Being a mentor, being a mentee, very successful. There's various programs, there's various people. I have had people come up to me, which I appreciate from a senior leader, from a senior leader's perspective. What I really like about people is them showing initiative. I am exceptionally busy with a lot of different things. Sometimes sitting down and thinking is a luxury. Sometimes when you have that moment of clarity and stillness, you need to carve that out. So I may not think, or I may not see certain things. So having somebody come to me and say, you said this, it inspired this, and this is where I see this going, or I have a solution for you to a problem that I didn't even know existed, or things like that, right? Initiative. Show me the drive. Show me that you want to, instead of me pointing it and saying, hey, can you do this? Because that's at the beginning stage, right? Me telling you what to do. And I'm expecting a little bit more. So that's kind of what I meant by that.
And you mentioned a very important aspect, which is being proactive, being like innovative, let's say. And from that, I would like to move to the topic of change, because as we could hear, you've experienced many changes in the industry, organizations, and have you adapted your kind of leadership to these changes, and what were the key lessons that you have learned during transformation change periods?
So I don't adapt my leadership. I think leadership is just the way that you lead. It's your personal style. It's how you treat other people. It's what you do. So I believe in teams. I believe that you can achieve a lot of things and do magic, essentially, when you have the right talent, people that challenge you. I don't, in my leadership team, I don't want people that just agree with everything I say. In fact, I encourage them to challenge me, give me a different perspective. I have changed my mind multiple times on a issue that I was set in stone that I know how to solve. And then if somebody is actually able to convince me, I welcome that. So change is constant. That's not going away. You are changing throughout your career. You're changing out throughout the roles that you have. The world is changing. The technology is changing. There's always change. There are difficult situations. That's why we have support. That's why we need to communicate. Communication is one of the most important aspects in any transformation or in any change. People need to know. If they don't know, they'll make their own mind. They'll give themselves their own answers. We, as people, a lot of the times have tendency to go negative, right? There is a lot of positive in the change, in the transformation. But there are some losses, right? I mean, it can't always be positive. In a transformation, as a senior leader, one of the difficult things, because I don't think we talk about it enough, if you don't know what my struggles are, you may view me as heartless and she's letting people go, or she hasn't thought about this all. I have thought about this. I have thought about the fact that I need to look at this through the lens of, I have a business to look after and I have people to look after. Sometimes those two things don't jive, because if you are not in the right role, you have the skills, but you don't get the support, you can't perform well. Maybe you are right in the different role, or maybe you're just not right for the organization because you're not willing to move with how the strategy for the company is, right? Some people like the status quo. Some people are saying, and I heard this time and time again, why are we changing anything if it's working? Well, it worked in the old environment. Now it's not working. If it's working, great. Can we expand it? Can we scale it? Because entrepreneurs always look at other opportunities to grow the business, to expand, to add more value. If the company is successful, you as an employee are going to be successful. But if the company is not successful, guess what's going to happen? They're going to close. They're going to have to reduce. They're going to start having to optimize. They're going to have to start squeezing more out of folks or laying people off. We hear this all the time right now. So those are difficult changes that are happening, and we need to communicate. We need to walk people through that. We need to be also authentic and open as much as we can. That's one of the hardest things. There are certain things that as an executive I can't tell people. I can't. You need to keep it quiet, or you don't want to create panic or chaos or strategic plans that other folks are just not privy. But I myself always think of repercussions of what's going to happen down the line. It's not short-sighted. And I want to believe that most companies should have this figured out. Not always the luxury that every employee has, but that's how I try to lead. I try to think a few steps ahead to see how what the impact's going to be.
It sounds a little bit to me like, in simple words, like a conflict between the mind and the heart. Yeah, like the conflict you said between, like, sometimes the conflict between the business and the people that you're responsible for. And we as like people are the same. Sometimes, we have that conflict. I mean, usually mind and heart should go in the same direction, but as we know, we're not very logical always, and sometimes. Emotions take over control, or the mind is taking the control over, and it sounds similar to me.
You know what? I don't think that you should be making decisions based on emotions in business, if that makes sense. I know that it may sound rough to some people, but again, what is the primary objective of the business? It needs to be profitable, right? There is no, at the executive level, there is no room for me to create connections with people as friends. As my boss would say it, you're friendly, but you're not their friend, right? And that's how I live by it. If you are too close to somebody, you start losing the perspective of that they're not adding value to the business, or that they are not productive, because you're too close to it. You need to, that's where the loneliness of a leader comes from. You're not their friend, you're their leader. You will support them, but at the same time, you want to make the decisions based on what's best for the company, what's best for the business. I have made the mistakes before. Let's not kid ourselves. When you're looking at the journey of anybody, it's not always rosy. It's a struggle, and I just want to mention that, because all people see when they're looking at somebody they aspire to be is that their road was rosy and this promotion and that promotion. No, I struggled too. There were moments in my career when I was like, I'm so stressed out. I'm so overworked. I'm so just mentally gone that sometimes sitting at a dinner table with my husband and my kids, I was staring at a wall and I'm like, please don't talk to me. I don't have brain capacity to continue with this. There are choices that we make in life. And again, I just want to mention that because it's very important. It's a choice. So if you go into a leadership role and you're aspiring to being a department head, an office head, a CEO, it's not for free. It comes with other consequences. It may impact your career. Like, I travel a lot. So my husband is watching the kids at that time. I miss them. I mean, there's that aspect to life. It's not all work. And when you have a very responsible job, you need to take those benefits, and then you need to look at what it's going to cost you, and you need to say, hey, do I have the support system? Do I want this? Think long and hard. It's a lot of self-reflection on a career, and also understand that you don't have to have all the answers. take it slow, take it easy, make this a journey. It's a, as somebody said, and I like that saying to me, don't try to do everything all at once. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
I hear a lot of this marathon and not a sprint metaphor recently. That I wanted to stay a little bit in the topic of challenges. Could you like share some of your biggest challenges you faced in leadership?
Definitely. And I already kind of alluded to one of them where I was super overworked and stressed and juggling different priorities and working long hours. And that was tough because you at some point don't see a way out. And how did I overcome that? Right. I essentially, there was a breaking point. And at that breaking point, when I said, this job is not worth it because it's a job, it's important. And I take pride in what I do and I try to do very, very well. But there are certain circumstances and there are certain conditions that have to be met for me to be able to continue. It's not sustainable if you're so stressed out that you can't, you need to kind of thaw out 2 hours for 2 hours after work, right? This needs to be enjoyable. This needs to solve some problems. This needs to develop you. And it stopped serving that purpose. And at some point, I even mentioned, I'm willing to take a demotion. I can't be in this environment. So it's that choice. It's making some tough choices. It's struggling with that and saying, this is not for me. I need to walk away from this. Be brave enough to do this, right? Again, being confident in your ability to continue and not go down the rabbit hole of this is the end of the world, because it's not. And then second one was when I thought I deserved to be promoted to be a leader, and I wasn't. And I think it's going to resonate with some of the folks that are starting the career. Others see you differently than you see yourselves a lot of the times. And when I was applying for a supervisory role, I wasn't ready for it. I saw it years later, but I was rejected, and I took it very personally. And that was one of the biggest struggles. That was like, well, what happened? And the person that was chosen in my eyes and in my view wasn't really the type of leader that I was looking for, right? And I had to report to that person. And that taught me humility. That taught me that not everything that I see and I think is the way that it is. That taught me to rely on other people, to keep me honest, to give me advice. That's why it's networking is important, mentorship is important, support is important, right? Because without that, it's really hard to keep that connection to reality. Sometimes we think we're better. Sometimes, on the other hand, we think that we're worse than we are. Sometimes we underestimate ourselves.
And sometimes we just need to have a really good foundations. And as you said, like make a step back. Yeah. Maybe, yeah, go for demotion and just start fresh. Yeah. Building your foundations for the future success, because maybe it will be too costly. And at some point you will just realize that, oh, I'm definitely not in a stage or in a stage in my life that I would like to be, or in a position that I would like to be. And I just need to let it go for a while. Thought-provoking, again, it's like, I would like to say inspiring, but it's actually like brutal truth, I would say, rather than, a brighty kind of vision of the leadership that we tend to present to people in, like
Yeah,
everywhere. Yeah.
I mean, I like to keep it honest, because that's how you're going to learn. I mean, you've got a lot of folks saying that I got this because I'm great, or I got this because of connections or whatever. No two journeys are the same. So I don't have a toolbox that I can give you and say, here, this is what you do, and your journey is going to look the same. Take opportunities. Stay authentic to who you are. Don't pretend to be somebody that you're not. Don't pretend to be somebody that other people want you to be. Because first, it's going to come out. Second of all, you're not going to feel comfortable in that. And you're not going to be successful. And then also, at the same token, it's hard work. If it's not hard work, then it's, you need to do something that scares you every day, right? And it's kind of like, if you don't have to put effort into it, it means that goal is not for you. If it comes easy, then it means anybody can do this. You know what? And to be honest with you, I think a lot of people are not willing to give something time. Especially, and I don't want to sound like an old person, but younger generation that is job hopping, right? And we see this a lot, where somebody's thinking, oh, I've learned everything over here, and I'm just moving to another role, right? That's different than wanting a change. That's more of, I know everything and I'm just going to think that I'm going to gain something else by moving to another role. There's always plenty of things to learn. There is, especially in larger organizations. It's just how willing you are to put the effort in, how much work you are willing to put into it. I use every opportunity I get to learn. I take a tram because my office is in the city center, so I listen to podcasts, I listen to trainings, I read books. I clean and I do, certain things that teach me. I talk to people. I combine lunches to talk about work, right? So you're using these micro opportunities to kind of advance you. So it's all in your hands, I would say.
Definitely, we are the directors of our life, yeah, and we decide whether we want this to be a melodrama, an adventure book, a romance, or whatever whatever we want to do it from that. And you said before that leadership feels lonely. Yeah, it's lonely because, as you said, you can be friendly, but you're not their friend. And could you share some experiences with that, or?
Yeah, of course. Listen, if you're working in a group, you're creating communities of people that are willing to support you. You do this because you want to make sure that you advance the company. You want to make sure that you get support. But look at myself, for example. I am leading the office of nearly 390 people. That's a lot of folks. They all are looking up to me. I am making decisions that are impacting their livelihood. I'm making decisions that are impacting whether the roles stay, whether they move, whether they have, work with the same team, the office locations, you name it. I'm not their friend. I can't just go out and talk about things that I struggle with because they need to see me as a leader. I am authentic, but to a certain extent, I can talk to my boss, who is based in Hamburg. So it's not like he's going to pop into the office quite often. Also, at that level of roles, you're expected to direct. You're expected to know what you're doing. You are expected to lead and be present, and tired or not, things need to get done. Things need to get done, right? But a lot of the times networking is important, attending conferences, being part of organizations that support you, that, for example, I'll give you an example on regulatory reporting. that's a regulatory requirement where a lot of companies need to report transactions, let's say, right? And trades. And you can create a group of people, even though you're competitors, you can create that environment where you're saying, okay, if we collectively go to the regulator and propose this solution, it's going to work, right? So you're dividing that. You're creating the space for yourself not to feel lonely, not to feel like you're left alone with that problem. And I don't, I try to be surrounded by people. Like when COVID happened, it was one of the worst times for me because I'm open. I thrive on energy of other people. And I was cool, locked in my bedroom. And I actually just took over the role of leading a department of 6 teams and 60 people. And I didn't have anybody. I mean, I was looking around in the walls, right? So that mental aspect is exceptionally important. You need to be able to take care of yourself. Your mental health is a lot more important than we give it credit for. You need to find a balance in what you're trying to achieve versus what's worth it versus where's your support and how you can, come out of it. The loneliness aspect is there, but you can, if you find other people that are willing to support you, kind of tackle that problem.
Yeah, definitely. Like support network is crucial. Yeah. Today in the morning, I was like actually listening to one of the episodes of Haberman Labs podcast. I don't know if you heard about it, but yeah. And one of the pillars to have a great mental and physical health was actually having a support network and surrounding yourself with people who are not. Who are like supporting you and like giving you the energy rather than taking it from you all the time. I didn't remember the metaphor he used, but he was like talking about the savings and the taxes. So the people who are like savings to you and the people who are like taxes, and you have to like constantly pay and pay and pay and pay. And that's crucial. But I think, yeah, when you're like open to people, like you're also like very kind of sociable person, it's quite difficult sometimes to maybe like find a balance or just realize who is like the tax and who is the saving.
You know what? You surround yourself with people that give you what you need. I don't know where that comes from with me. I have intuition that I use quite often. Um, if you are an introvert, you don't always want to be surrounded by people that are loud and obnoxious or happy and fun. You need your quiet space, right? At the same token, when you're an extrovert, you want a little bit of energy instead of having somebody quietly sitting in a corner and reflecting and listening. It's all about, again, steering your behavior towards other people, recognizing that everybody's different, recognizing that everybody's got something different to put into the table, right? And one of the things that my mentor told me in the past, saying, don't try to change who you are. Don't try to believe and think that you need to be like somebody else. You are where you're at because of you. You got there, nobody else. If you were different, you may not have been where you're at. So give yourself credit. Understand that your journey is yours. You direct where you go. Will you make mistakes? Absolutely. Will you meet people that are not valuable? Definitely. You're going to meet people that you start trusting and then they will betray that trust. You pick yourself back up, you find a different support system, or you can rely on that support system that you have and you move forward. You obviously have to learn from it. What do you need to change? What behavior created this situation? I have had friends that I had to let go personally because they weren't serving the purpose. Friendship and business relationship, it's a two-way street. If all you're doing is giving and the other person is not giving back, it's not serving you. Those decisions are not easy. Those decisions are very hard. But quite frankly, you need to stop thinking with your heart. A lot of the times you need to start thinking of what's good for you. You need to start thinking with your head, of where am I going? What am I trying to achieve? And then break it down into smaller steps and just kind of go towards it.
Oh my
Is it
God.
thought-provoking again?
Every time you're like saying something, it's just like, resonating so much. And like, again, like a new bulb is like lighting up in my head.
That's good, I guess.
Yeah, that's perfect. Really, that's perfect. And I think whoever will listen to that, they will have a similar experience, because listening to you is, I don't know if I will find a good word, like compelling. Yeah, like you're like putting a spell on me right now, and just giving that all that knowledge and experience. So I totally love it.
Thank you.
If we look from a different perspective on the leadership, from the perspective of a team, how can like younger professionals support their leaders during transitions, changes, and what are like also the key expectations or needs from the leaders? What do you think about it? What's your experience here?
Yeah. So from my experience, right? Every company is different and every leader is different. They lead differently. And what I would expect from people during the change, ask questions. Don't jump into conclusions. Stay open-minded. Try to see a bigger picture. Because we come with preconceived notions. We sometimes jump to conclusions. We sometimes think that people are just out to get us. They're worried about the change. It's very natural. People don't like change. We're comfort creatures, right? We like where we're at. We maybe want to grow, but if the change is a little too big, then we're not very comfortable with it. Change can be good. Change may have good elements, bad elements. Change is inevitable. We need to recognize that sometimes leaders struggle with it too. They may not necessarily agree with the change, or they may be for a change, but it's hard for them to show everybody else the positives, right? I look at it from a totally different perspective. If you're in a different journey in your stage, you require different things, right? But imagine this situation where I, for example, want to start introducing additional roles into Krakow office. I want to move them. I want to grow it, right? Some people start feeling threatened of, okay, well, what's going to happen with us right now? She's bringing new people. She's bringing new teams. Are we going to be not looked after anymore? And in my head, I'm thinking, I've got this office right here, but it's predominantly tech, right? I need to start moving other roles, AML, KYC, finance, whatnot, so that my whole office has opportunities of career progression. Because remember, I may not have expertise in IT or in training, trading, in AML, but that does not mean that I cannot lead an office that has people and has teams like that. At a certain level in a leadership, the skills are transferable. You're looking for a different person. They don't want me coding. That's not why they hire me. They want me to motivate the people. They want me to transform the office. They want me to make sure that the talent that I have there, I'm able to keep them. So when I look at this, I'm looking at it from a perspective of, I'm trying to do the transformation and the change to take care of the people, to long-term give them more opportunities. If we start moving more roles, that means we require additional funding, additional opportunities. We start being important. All that elevates the office. That's how I think. But somebody that's an analyst, that all they're seeing is, oh my God, there's more people, there's more work, there's more whatever. They don't necessarily understand that. So talk to people. Don't close yourself off. Don't look at it just from your perspective. one of the most important things that somebody told me is don't try to judge other people until you've been in their shoes. You have no idea what they're struggling with. Most people want to do good. Most people want to progress. Most people have good intentions. So look at it from that perspective. And how leaders can be supported. Leaders need to be leaders. They need their support system, but they need to lead. They have the responsibility to serve their people. That's what I believe in.
With your broad experience and with what you're saying, it feels so authentic and so knowledgeable that I feel right now like, oh my God, I have so much to learn. And I think
you're on
and
the right path, though. You're doing stuff. You're creative. You have the podcast. You're seeking other people, trying to learn. So that's what you can do. It's going to come with time. Again, don't try to do everything at one time. It's going to take time.
I know. It's going to take some more time than I expected because I tend to like think in sprints rather than marathons. But lately, I'm starting to have more pleasure from running a little bit longer and slower rather than just doing a sprint. But it's a learning experience, yeah. Because you're doing like a lot of things, you have vast experiences and supporting others, like challenges, difficult problems, or challenges can be like exhausting. And as a leader, how do you like manage work-life balance? What advice would you give to professionals struggling with that, or not struggling, but just want to know how you manage all of this?
I'm not very good at that. So I'm the first one to admit, for anyone who knows me, I try to take on way too much of myself, right? So I have this, I can squeeze this in and I can squeeze that in. And I mentioned that I use every opportunity. That's exhausting at the end of the day. What you need is carving out time to let your brain rest. And I listened to something very, very inspiring for me that I'm very willing to try. It was a 3 S's. So in the morning or in the middle of the day, you try to sit still. So stillness, in silence, and solitude. So you're alone, you're not moving, and it's just quiet. There were some studies apparently that it's better than relaxation music because your brain gets to rest, right? Carving that out. Also, the strategy of doing the most important things at the very beginning because it takes energy, it takes time. At the end of the day, we're exhausted. We don't have time we don't have that brain capacity to do this. So, doing the little things like that, working with your body and with your mind. Everybody's different. Some people like to work in the Pomodoro method, right? 25 minutes, or a block, or focus times. So whatever works for you. Outside of that, go for a run. I don't like running, but I ran half marathon. I took it as a project. Somebody dared me, and so I decided running, right? And I like the schedule. That works for me. I work towards the goal. Some people think when they run. I can't. I have to focus on not running into a tree. So I prefer swimming, right? Because if I veer off the lane, then obviously nothing's going to happen. So I like to do that. I do yoga. I used to do meditation. It helps your brain relax. It gives you a different understanding and different space, right? I solve problems under the shower. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night at 2 a.m, staring at the ceiling, and I come with a solution to the problem. You need to give that brain a little break. You need to make sure that you take care of your body as well. Some people like biking. Some people like walking, meeting with friends. Forget about the work. You cannot work 24/7. Your brain is not designed that way, and you won't be productive. And you're going to burn yourself out. You're going to get a heart attack further down the line. I'm exaggerating right now, but those are serious things. Your mind and your body need to work in unison. And so that's what I do. And then also another thing that I've always, and I stuck to it, I refuse to put work calendar or work communicator, right? So Teams or any other type of communicator on my personal phone. That's my life. That's my personal phone. So in this job, obviously, I'm expected to respond oftentimes to work requests that are outside of working hours. I work cell phone. That's where all my stuff is. So when it's a weekend and I'm going out with my friends, I leave that phone at home. That's how I separate it. That helps my brain say, I'm not working. I don't have a way to check messages or emails on my personal phone. You have to have that barrier. You have to at some point cut yourself off from wanting to constantly one more email, one more thing, one more message. No, you need that balance, and it's hard. Don't get me wrong, it's hard, but it's doable. And having somebody keeping you honest, my boss says, hey, you do realize it's the weekend. You do realize you don't have to be at every company event, at every conference. Listen to those people. I give great advice. I'm bad at, taking it to heart. So, so that's kind of one of my goals for this year personally. Start listening to your own advice.
That's a challenging goal from what you just said. Yeah, that's going to be ambitious goal to actually learn that. But because sometimes I think, yeah, we tend to give advice to others, and yeah, we forget to live up to them or just implement them in our life. It's always like easier to judge others than ourselves. Wrapping up this conversation, because I think there is so much value and knowledge that whoever is going to listen to that will need some time to digest it. So we should wrap up right now. And I would like to ask you a few questions. What advice would you give to professionals aspiring to leadership roles in their careers?
I think I've touched upon that many times, but figure out what you want to do. Stay authentic, stay true to yourself, take opportunities. Don't be afraid to not try something. Again, in that spirit of say yes and then figure out how to do it, right? We underestimate ourselves a lot of the times. We don't believe that we're good enough. Especially women have that tendency of undervaluing themselves. There was a study done that I can't ever remember who did it, but it said that if there's a role description and a woman does not hit it 100%, she's not going to apply. And if a guy fulfills 40 to 50%, not precious on those numbers, and maybe 60%, they're thinking that they're perfect for the job and they're going to get it, right? It's more about stop just not believing in yourself. Believe in the fact that you can do it. You've got the skills. If you don't, you learn them. You surround yourself with people that tell you, this may not be the route that you want to do it. Some people say, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do this X, Y, and Z. If you put your mind to it, you can achieve a lot. That's what I tell my kids. Don't say, I don't know it. Say, I haven't learned it yet.
I'm also going to take that advice. I'm going to say to other people right now that, or to myself also, that I haven't learned that yet, rather than I don't know. And yeah, you already mentioned about your goal for this year, for 2024, with making your advices more implementable in your life. I don't know if that's a good word, but who cares? So looking ahead, what are your professional, personal goals for 2024? Are there any more?
So I'm trying to carve time for myself and my family. right? Because again, as I mentioned, I do a lot of work. There's a lot of events after work. There's a lot of conferences. There's a lot of discussion panels where I'm involved. I'm meeting various people. I'm outside of my work. I'm also, outside of my duties in the office, because my scope is quite large. I travel quite a bit. I get to talk to people. You know, folks sometimes think that going to dinners and going to drinks after work is so much fun, right? Somebody else is footing the bill. And I'm like, no, folks, I really just want to go to my hotel and read a book or go to sleep. Too much is not good either. You need to find that balance. That's what I'm trying to do. Find a balance. That is that main goal. I'm not even trying to schedule, vacations. I'm a planner. I like to plan. I'm trying to get away from that. I'm trying to be a little bit more, let's do spontaneous things. Let's see how things work, right? And try not to schedule too much. That's my personal goal. There's lots of offices. StoneX has a lot of offices. I need to meet a lot of people. There's over 4,000 folks, and I can't talk to everybody, obviously, but that's going to be an intensive year, because again, I just started. I'm learning the ropes. Professionally, I'm dealing with transformation. So it means looking at strategically whether some roles fit better here in Krakow, whether we've got talent, and I believe we do. There's great opportunities, but it's talking to stakeholders, trying to tell them about Krakow, about an office that they don't know anything about. Like, they don't know that we've got 12 free universities and a lot of very talented people, that if they're looking for somebody, a degree is not necessarily a problem, right? Because they're looking through that lens. So that is a lot of the challenges and the goals right now. Take it easy. That's kind of more to me, right? It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon. You're not going to get there in one day. And one of the things that my mentor mentioned to me that resonated with me, that's also very, very important: focus. You have to be able to define 2, 3 things that you're going to focus on. Because we tend to have great ideas. We've got this and that and whatever, and we don't get from point A to Z because we want to do too much all at once. It is something that we need to be very diligent about. Small steps towards a goal. Figure out what that is. Figure out what's the most important thing for you. So that's what I'm trying to do.
And I'm going to take that too for myself. I already made the notes. So thank you, Anya. And
No
the last thing for our listeners who would like to learn more from your experiences or connect with you, where they can find you online.
I recommend LinkedIn. It's a professional network. I respond to messages. I don't like to, as I mentioned, commingle my personal and professional life too much. So obviously, I do have my professional LinkedIn page, and then some of the other stuff like the Instagrams and the Facebooks and all that. That's for my personal life, right? So I believe, and I'm an old school kind of person. I know that a lot of people love to use chats. I love to talk to people, even if it's just a call, even if it's just a conversation. I like to meet them, feel the energy. We all know that if you meet stakeholders face to face, you get a different experience. And that's what I'm all about, right? So LinkedIn, fortunately for everyone, there's only one Ania McLaughlin in the LinkedIn space, and it is Anya. It's not Anna, because there's more Anna McLaughlins. Thankfully, you'll see my picture there. I'm always open to have to speak to folks as much as I can help. Because one of the passions and the reason why I do this is because I love to see people grow and develop. That's why I went into leadership. That's why I went into the role that I'm at, is to help and to see how others can succeed. It gives me great pleasure, and I feed off of their positive energy.
Thank you, Anya. Thank you for that conversation. It's, as I said before, thought-provoking, inspiring, and honest, authentic, which is the biggest advantage. And really, thank you for that.
Excellent. Thank you. It was a great pleasure talking to you. Great questions as well.
Thanks for joining me on another episode of Doing It My Way by Beata Matras. If you enjoyed this episode, please do not forget to subscribe. Remember, this podcast is a dynamic journey and your feedback is very welcomed. Connect with me on social media. I would like to hear your thoughts, questions, and topic suggestions. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes. And until next time, keep doing it your way.